In the spring of 1862, the Union Army overtook the Confederates at the siege of Yorktown, Virginia. 130 miles away in Bristersburg, Virginia, an enslaved man named Richard Myers Hedgman decided it was time to escape his enslaver. His enslaver's name was Jesse Peters. So Richard began a 20-mile trek towards the Potomac River, crossing the river into Indian Head, Maryland, a border state. From there, he headed for Yorktown, Virginia, now Union-controlled. In Yorktown, he boarded a Union hospital ship headed for New York with 20 other black men. He would live and work as a free man in New York, yet fearful that his enslaver might one day find him. On July 11, 1863, the New York City draft riots broke out. 6 days of white men killing black people in the streets, upset with Lincoln over the draft and Emancipation Proclamation, fearful that the formerly enslaved would take their jobs. I imagine Richard Myers Hedgman and those 20 black men who boarded that ship with him must have been fearful for their lives. Their existence aligned directly to the anger of white men. It must have made an impression, because 4 months later, 4 of them headed for New Haven, Connecticut, where they enlisted in the 29th Connecticut Colored Regiment. Their names were Wilson Essex, John Perry, Stephen Gray, and Richard Myers Hedgman. By the way, none of their names are on the monument in New Haven. On enlistment, Richard dropped his last name and enlisted as Richard Myers. He said, "I left off the name Hedgman for fear that my old master would know me and take me back into slavery. This would become an issue after the war, as it was difficult for him to gain his pension since his name was different." In support, Captain Charles Griswold of Company B provided a letter to support him. He said, "There is not any doubt as to his identity. Like many others in my regiment, he enlisted under an assumed name." A year ago, an amazing genealogist out of Washington, D.C., brought me this story. His name is Joseph Robbie. He's a current-day descendant of the enslaver of Richard Myers Hedgman's wife, Tulip Coleman. I worked with Joseph a year ago to find their current-day descendants. We found them. We even set up a call with one of them, and Joseph shared with him details of his family that he did not know. We had an incredible conversation, and since then, Joseph has been on a mission to document the lives of this family that his family enslaved. He was supposed to be here today to walk with us, but he didn't make it. I haven't seen him, so I don't think he made it. But Joseph also shared with me a book from a church in Upperville, Virginia, that Richard Myers Hedgman attended until his death in 1930. The book was produced in 2002. It was celebrating the 150th anniversary of that church. On the back page was an old picture of a man indicated as being one of the historic pillars of that church. Lo and behold, that was a picture of Richard Myers Hedgman. I took that picture and I found an amazing artist from the greater Waterbury area to give us an updated portrayal of Richard Myers Hedgman, to be part of a collection of paintings that I've been creating that we're calling the William Downey Memorial Collection in honor of my wife's uncle, who was a freedom fighter, died some 6 years ago. But all the portraits are of the formerly enslaved in grand style to represent them in the same way that you see portraits of that day of white Americans. So our collection is going to have a total of 6 photos. This is number 3. And so I want to bring up Katiana Jarbath Smith, the artist, to help me unveil it, and then she'll give some dialogue on her inspirations for the artistry. Before you talk, unveil it, and then you can tell. Okay, we're going to pull it off back.
Okay.
You ready?
Greetings, everyone. It's truly an honor to stand with you today in commemoration of the 160th anniversary of the return of the 29th and 30th. Being here and walking this path together reminds us that history is not distant. It's present, it's alive, and it is carried forward by moments like this one. Before I speak about the artwork, I wanted to offer a heartfelt thank you to John Mills and Erica Mills of Alex Brand Corporation. Where are you, John? In the back, Erica. John and Erica are the reasons why this portrait exists. So to commission this painting, they shared with me the only known photograph of Richard Myers Hedgman, the one preserved in an old church book. From that single late life image, they entrusted me with the responsibility of bringing Hedgman forward in a way that honors his truth and his legacy. When I began this portrait, I worked from that one church photograph. In the picture, Hedgman is seated and his posture carries a quiet strength. So I kept that posture in the painting as a way of honoring the truth of how he held himself. But I made one intentional addition, which was John's suggestion. I placed the Bible between his torso and his right arm. It wasn't in the original photograph, but it was to carry the church element within him, to reflect the deep faith we know shaped his life. And instead of keeping him inside the literal church setting, I chose to transport him into a space that speaks to his story. The background is symbolic: the ship, the shoreline, the flag, each element holding a part of his journey. By bringing him into the foreground and allowing him to meet the viewer's gaze, I wanted him to command presence, to be encountered as a whole person rather than a distant historical figure. This portrait is my way of honoring his dignity, his humanity, and the faith and resilience that carried him through his life. Today is the first time anyone will see this painting, and it means so much that it was unveiled here, especially after the walk that we all had together. Hedgman walked toward freedom, fought for it, lived decades after the war, and now through this portrait, he remains here, seen, remembered, and honored. Thank you, John and Erica, for your trust. Thank you very much, everyone.
So we only have one thing remaining. The framing is beautiful too as well. You just added that too. Goodness gracious, Katiana. She's incredibly talented, as you can see, so I'm gonna give you guys some time as well to come up and check it out. When she showed me the footsteps leading to the Potomac, man, that's amazing. That is amazing.